Hey, what's going on? Today I want to talk about a little bit of maintenance on sound equipment. Um, Something people tend to forget to do is clean up the dust in their power amps. This thing's very dirty on top. I'm sure there's some dust on the inside. The heat sink get covered in dust. The fan gets dust on it, much like a computer. You every once in a while want to take the side off your computer and spray it out with the little duster cans. You want to do the same thing with your power amps. Any audio equipment that has a fan in it's going to suck dust in. Not quite as bad as it was back in the day when everybody smoked at the bars and their stuff would get covered in thick smoke covering, but still gets a lot of dirty. Even here in my studio, my stuff's getting dirty, so I'm going to clean this amp. This is about a 25-year-old amp. It's Ampeg B2R. They used to use it in the smaller clubs and bars. Still alive today, still alive and kicking, sounds good. Everything seems to work pretty good on it still. I'm going to take the cover off. Maybe we can take a little peek inside. I'm going to spray off some of the dirt and just clean it up. It's something you need to do regularly. If you get a brand new amp, sometimes it'll have a seal on it or it'll say anything, do not open, you'll void the warranty. Obviously don't take it apart and clean it if it's under warranty. You don't avoid your warranty. But once it's out of warranty, you're going to want to do this. The heat builds up when there's dust on the heat sinks and just shorts the life of your amp. Also, another thing to keep in mind is this is an old school amp, but these things have capacitors in them that will hold a lot of voltage. If you don't know what you're doing, you might take it to someone to have it cleaned for you. I don't want anybody sticking their fingers in there and getting a shock or electrocuted or something. Obviously you want it all turned off and unplugged. All the cords and plugs are removed from this. I'll show you the capacitors and stuff when we get inside. And so I'm going to get the top off this thing and we'll take a look inside and start cleaning it out. Last screw out of it here. This one just kind of slides off, whole cover there. As you can see on this one, it's got a great big giant transformer. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. Big, I think what they call these, it looks like a donut. That's old school, thing weighs about 40 pounds. Nowadays they make them out of a little different type of power supplies, but capacitors are kind of stored underneath. If you can see them here. Not real big ones. I've had amps that had capacitors the size of soup cans. Capacitors are actually under here. Can't really see how many there are without taking the whole thing apart, which I'm not going to do. And you can see quite a bit of dust on the wires and on the parts. Heat sinks are buried underneath there, but I'm going to get some spray and some air and kind of spray it out. I can see dust on the fan. Got one little fan on the side here, which kind of blows all the way through and back out the other side. Alright, I got this little tiny compressor. There's no tank on it. I think it'll be strong enough. Probably have to do it in little bursts of air. You can also get the duster cans like you'd use for a computer and spray it out with that. Or a big compressor. I just don't feel like driving that big one in here. But this is pretty much used in my studio. I think the last time I cleaned this was probably been about 10 years, so it's definitely due for a cleaning. So hopefully this little thing will be powerful enough. This is a little tiny compressor. There's no tank on it. It's something used for airbrushing, I don't know, models or something you can find at the hobby store. I'm just going to go through and kind of spray off all the parts there, the heat sinks. I want to get as much dust off of it as what I can. You can see all the dust flying off the fan there, making a mess of my room. I'm going to spray it from the back side again. All the little holes and crevices. Jack inputs will get dust in them. Doesn't hurt to spray those out. It also doesn't hurt to use some contact cleaner. If you take the jack of your cable, spray contact cleaner on it, spray it in the little jack hole. Make sure everything's turned off and unplugged before you do that. Put it in there and pull it out a few times. It'll just help clean up the contacts for all the little jacks. That's really about it. Just want to get the dust out of them. Helps keep them cool, prolong the life of your amplifier. So I'm going to put this one back together, and then I'm going to take apart a much less expensive more modern amp. You can kind of take a peek at the, can have a different type transformer, a different type power supply. And we'll see what that one looks like. Alright, got this one back together. I'll swap it out, and my compressor keeps turning on off, and I shut that off. Swap this out for my other little power amp and see what that one looks like inside. Big heavy thing. So this is a little more modern of an amp, cheap amp. Works good though. Paid like $125 for it. It's dusty on the outside, so it's probably a little bit dusty on the inside. Not real old, so I'm not looking at it. I don't think it's going to be like crazy dirty, but I'm sure it'll have. Doesn't hurt to check. I'm gonna clean it regardless. And my power mixer is about the same age as this, so this isn't too bad. I'm not gonna take my power mixer apart because it doesn't just have a top that comes off. You gotta take the whole thing apart to kind of get into it. But you can take the air and just spray it in through the fan and in through the fan vents to try to get some of the dirt off the heat sink. The power mixer, it's got those sliders on there. You don't really want to get dust in them. So if this isn't too bad, I'm going to wait on the power mixer. This and the mixer are about 4 or 5 years old. So they're probably not too bad. They've only been used here in my studio, which isn't real dirty. So we take this one apart. We'll have a look inside of it, see what it looks like. Let me get this apart and we'll clean this one out. I think I got one more screw to go. I've never had this one apart, so I just figuring out how to take it apart. I think this is the last screw on the top, so it'll come off, I think. There we go. Well, it does have a transformer in it, littler one. So this one's a little more straightforward. It's actually made with transistors, which I didn't think it would be because it's a pretty cheap amp. I thought it'd be more of a chip amp. So I kind of like the way this is put together, especially for the price. I'm impressed. I didn't expect that. This is, I don't know how to say the name of it properly. It's spelled M-U-S-Y-S-I-C, Music. It says 2,000 watts. I went over this a little bit in my video of just covering my sound system. It says 2,000 watts, probably 100, maybe 150. If you take a look in here, I'm impressed that it actually has the full transformer. Most of the modern stuff does not. It's got what looks like 4 drivers, which I'm impressed with. I thought it would just be a chip amp. Nothing wrong with chip amps. A lot of things are made with just a chip that's actually amplifier just in the chip, and then you bias it and dial it in. I used to use chip amps all the time when I built my own. They're much more simple, and it's actually got quite a bit of a little circuit board there for just a little cheap power amp. 2 fans. One goes directly across the heatsink, one's going across the power supply. Vents coming out. It's very clean inside. I'm going to spray the air since I already got it apart. I might as well clean it. But these are the filter caps. What they actually do, they're on all of them. These are quite small, but the amp's not real powerful. What they actually do is when you rectify AC coming out of the transformer, AC is going to have a sine wave that goes positive and negative. When you rectify it, it takes the negative side of the AC curve and puts it positive. So you've got what looks like a bunch of little hills, I guess, and they're all on the positive side. These capacitors here fill in the gaps so that it becomes a solid line of DC. But they're only so capable, especially when they're this little. So when they start to discharge, you start to get dips in your DC. At that point, you can get a little clip. Clipping is when your transformer can't power the musical signal no more. Your signal, if it's a whatever kind of a wave it is, gets clipped off at the top. That's what clipping is. Creates distortion. Wrecks your speakers more than it wrecks the amp. The amp will just max out, and you could burn the amp up running it too long and clipping. But the speakers become a big issue because the distortion on the clipping heats the voice coils on the speakers and wrecks your speakers. So these kind of fill in gaps, keep clipping from those little gaps that happen. If you want to upgrade this, the first thing I would do is take these capacitors out and wire some big capacitors in there. I'm not going to bother with it. This thing works just fine. I'm really impressed looking inside here though. For the $125 amplifier, they did a really good job of putting it together. Very clean. Makes me confident that I don't need to do much with my power mixer. This is about the same age. But I am going to spray it out. I'm just going to take this and spray off any dust. Not too bad, I can see dust floating off it. This also has, turn this off while I'm talking maybe. This also has little filters on the front of it. Looks like it sucks the air out the back. I haven't really paid attention to which way the air flows. But there are little foam inserts in here to keep the dust from going in, or at least bigger particles. That's a plus and a minus. If the foam plugs up, then it's harder for us to suck air in. But it also keeps bigger particles out. So I'm going to take and spray out the foam from the back side, just to clean the little filters that are on there. See a lot of dust come out from those, so obviously they do make a difference in their work. Again, this thing's about 4 years old. In my studio, it's getting dusty, but it's not. If I didn't clean it for another, I could probably go another 4 years before I cleaned this one. But I wanted to make the video. I already had everything tore apart. I've been rearranging stuff, and thought, you know what, the Ampeg didn't need to be cleaned. It had some bigger pieces of dust in it, but I haven't cleaned that in about 10 years. So this just gives you more life out of your equipment. Anyway, I'm going to make a little video about that. I'm not going to do my power mixer because I don't feel like unhooking everything, and I don't think it's going to be that dirty. It's about the same age as this. Hopefully that was helpful.